Hello again everybody, my name is Joshalot and welcome to the very first episode of my Kodu Game Lab tutorial series. In this series I'll be showing you how to make your very own game using Kodu Game Lab for free, which you can download on the link on the screen right now. Now let's get straight into it. When you launch up the loader and set all your settings, you will get this interface here. You'll get resume. No, you won't actually have resume because I've already made a game, so when you click resume it'll bring up my most previous game. So you'll have New World, Load World, Community, Options, Help, and Quick Kodu. I'm taking a wild guess you already know what Quick Kodu does. But let's get right into it. When you click New World, you'll be greeted with this nice little green square here. As you can see up the very top left, it says Drag Terrain is left click. So you can basically move your camera around using the left click. Right click is to orbit, so you can right click and just move around like this. Scroll is to zoom in and out. And tab is to find next character. I have no idea what that does, and it doesn't seem to do anything for me. But first off, right off the back, you'll see there's this faded little thermometer here. This is a resource meter. It just basically will fill up over time and shows me how much stuff is in my world and what is going to lag me up or not. And in the bottom right, I've got this little compass here, just so I know which way is north. It just helps me a little. It'll be helpful later on. But let's get right into it. So the little taskbar toolbar thing you've got down here has 12 different options. The very first one is the menu button, which brings up the home menu. The second one is the play game button. This can also be achieved by clicking the escape key. So here's the toolbar and everything. When you click escape, the toolbar will disappear and you'll be in game. The third tool is the move camera tool, so that's the one I just showed you there. The fourth one is the object tool. This is the one where you can add in these little objects and program your game. The fifth tool is the path tool. Paths are created by clicking anywhere and just moving your mouse to the appropriate position, and then clicking back on the start. It'll still have this attached, click escape, and it'll sever the line. Hover over any of these little points, and you'll get this little interface at the very top. Use the left and right arrows to scroll through these different colors to color code your paths. This will be helpful when trying to define and dedicate a character to a certain path. Hover over one till you get this little flashing yellow circle around it, and click delete to remove objects. These aren't objects, but they kind of still count as entities. The sixth tool is the ground brush. This is where you paint your terrain. You have the option over here for a square brush, a hard round brush, a linear square brush, a linear hard round brush, or the magic brush. Magic brush can select certain areas with certain textures. Textures can be achieved by clicking this button here and scrolling through all of these different textures. There are currently 121 of them. So you've got 121 different options to select. If I select, let's say this one, number 79, and change my brush back to the square one, and click on it, I can paint the terrain that's already here in this nice texture, or I can paint some new terrain using the texture. Right click to remove texture, drag and right click to erase all of this, like so. And we're going to switch back to the default terrain, which is this one over here. I'm pretty sure it's number 10. Don't quote me on that though. So it's number 20, sorry. So let's just start off with a nice little round area of terrain like so. Now the next tool is the up down hill tool. So basically what you can do is if you hold left click on a certain area, it'll raise the terrain. Move your brush around to create these little kind of divots, not so much divots, these little mountains. Right click to get rid of them. So I've made my tool or my brush bigger and smaller by using the left and the right arrows to increase or decrease the size. If you want to make a game that's in an arena, there's a very easy way to do that. Make your hill up down tool bigger than the actual arena. Make sure this is a circle. That's achieved by going in the ground brush tool, changing your brush to a circle and just clicking once like so. Now what you do is you go to the up down tool, make your brush significantly bigger than the terrain, and just hold down, and it'll raise all the terrain evenly. Then what you do is you get a circle brush and make it just a bit smaller. And by the way, before I continue, if you want to change the camera angle with the move camera tool but want to keep using the other one, hold down spacebar and it'll temporarily toggle the camera tool. So see, I'm holding it down and now the little hand is bigger, which means that's selected. But there's still little yellow square brackets around the one we were using over here. So I can use this, then I release it and it'll go back to the other tool. So I'm going to get a top view of this facing north just because I am OCD. Aim it, so make the brush just smaller than the terrain and hold right click. This will reduce the terrain like this. Now we can just hold spacebar and use the tool. And now basically what you've got is a little arena kind of a thing. So this looks pretty nice. And then we can paint the arena using the using the appropriate terrain tools. This tool here seems pretty realistic. Now I don't go for over realistic all the time, but I'm just gonna click. There we go. Now we've got this nice little terrain here with a nice little border around it, kind of. But this is not very nice right now, so I'm just going to erase all this for now. We're going to go back to the default terrain again, which is number 20. So we've got this plot of land, but now you're probably asking, what does the 8th tool do? The 8th tool is the Flatten Tool. So that means if we've got like a hill or something, so we've got like this little hill here, it looks kind of uneven, it's quite blocky, reminds me a bit of Minecraft, but I'm just going to make my brush smaller and use the Flatten Tool. Hold down left tool and what it'll do is it'll even out the terrain. So you'll see it's like a slope. And if you get it just right, so if I move my brush in a certain point, you'll see that the terrain actually gets not so much flattened, but it evens out really well and gets rid of most of the little bits like that. So now you ended up with a nice little smooth ramp like so. And that looks pretty nice. So just make the tool bigger to get a more drastic effect, like this. Like this. And now you'll see we've got this completely smooth mountainous terrain. Not mountainous. What right-clicking does is it will find the midpoint between this height here and this point here and put it to the midway by right-clicking, but not smoothly. It'll just move the terrain. So now you'll see... There. Now we've got a straight ledge. So if you make this giant, so you make the brush big, and use this tool, there we go. Now it's basically back to normal now. Now the last, sorry, not the last tool. This tool here, the Roughen tool, creates spiky or hilly grounds like this. This is spiky ground, and if you right-click this hilly ground, kind of acts like the other one, but it's a bit more hilly. So if we make the tool much bigger, you'll get this nice big mountainous spiky terrain like so. Now if we just get if we use the eraser again, which is just the ground brush tool and just erase, and just paint some land back. If we use the water tool over here, hold left click to raise water like this. Water cannot fall out of the land, it's just the way the game or the generator is programmed. Hold right click to get rid of the water. If you section off an area, so let's just use the tool here to make a kind of like a basin. So, like so. If we use water on the outside, obviously the water cannot get in because it's not high enough. If the water ends up getting high enough, it'll flood through the lower bits and eventually flood the whole thing. You can lower the water, and so, for example, I can put the water, like this, only inside this little area here. If there's too much like this, because it's flooding over the sides, just use the tool and make it taller, and just get rid of any of those bits, and then we'll just contain that again, like so. The second last tool, wait a minute. The second last tool is the delete tool. What you can do is you can get rid of objects. So let's say if we just inserted a rover here and use the erase tool, it'll just get rid of any objects there. Although personally I find hovering over and clicking delete much better, because then you can kind of, if we've got like two things at close proximity like this, and I wanted to only erase one, it's very fiddly to do so, and you have to get it perfect by doing that. Or, I'm still on that. So, but if there's two guys at close proximity, you can just hover over the one, and when it's highlighted, click delete, and it's much easier. And the very last tool is the change world settings. What this one does is you can get your history, glass walls, which basically makes it so if you click on it and it turns green, it means it's activated. What glass wall does is your character cannot go outside. It's like there's a glass or invisible wall. Your character cannot fall off the world. If that is unticked, your character is able to fall off the world. The other resources they have, or the other options they have, is the show compass, which is that one down there, the resource meter, which is the little thermometer, and the resource limiting. I have that ticked just in case, like in case there's too many objects, but you can easily just turn it off. It just might lag it up a bit more. What the wave height does is you see when there's water in here, so, there you go. When there's water, you'll see that the water has little waves. If you change the wave height till it's 99, for example, you'll get these very big, over-exaggerated waves like this. And if you put like an object in there, like turtle, look what the turtle does. Absolutely nothing. Now he'll get pushed along. Watch. Anyways, the other options, I'm just going to set this back to 20 actually first of all, so there. There's wave strength, which also increases stuff. You have the sky options, which is one of my favorite different options. So you've got all these different ones here. A really cool sunset is number 20, sky. The other really cool one that looks like kind of like a Mars thing is number 5. This one gives it a really cool like green dark abyss glow kind of a thing like this. The other one is this one, which is also really cool. It's like a end of the world doomsday Pandora's box kind of a thing. But I'm just going to set it back to default, which is number 11. Then you've got lighting, which just basically changes everything like so. I haven't found very much use for that unless you want to change it to like nighttime, but I don't really do that. You have breezes, which doesn't really do much. You can start the game with nothing, which basically makes it so when you click escape, nothing happens. But you can make it so you can set a countdown.
3, 2, 1.
And the game will start like that. When you save the game, you can set a description, and basically if you add a description and then go world description or world description with countdown, it'll basically display the description and then a countdown, depending on which one you pick. Debug path following. I don't really know what that does, and I basically wouldn't fiddle with these three here. This is just volume, this is just stuff basically. Virtual controller is basically, now you've got your kind of like an Xbox, because this thing is made for Xbox initially, but you can also use the computer. But basically, it's got the X, Y, A, B, and the little joystick thingy, basically, as well. But I don't use that, obviously. Next level, you can actually make multiple levels, so when a level is completed, it'll switch to one of these ones. I've got a whole bunch of different levels. These ones here are all default, but I just ignore them. You can add the GUI buttons. These are basically nothing. You don't really want to fiddle with these ones. These score ones here, though, these ones are very important. I will not cover them in this episode, but they will be very useful later on, okay? And basically, that's all the options. That's basically all I'm going to do for this tutorial. This is the very first one. This is just getting to know the program and how to use it. In the next episode, we'll be making some terrain and starting the game we're going to make and brainstorm what we're going to make this game about. So thanks for watching. A like is always appreciated. And as always, I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.